He announced today that this is the year of the martyr in Iran, and that there's nothing, as a martyr we have nothing to fear. Captivity cannot be forced upon us because our ultimate goal is martyrdom. This is not a man afraid of death. This is not a leader that mutual assured destruction works with. And people in Washington who study this know this, and you don't. And so when they say, oh, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, you say, what's the big deal? Why don't you know? Because they don't want to offend anybody by telling you. They don't want to offend anybody by telling you. They don't want to offend the Saudis. They don't want to offend our allies. They don't want to offend the Islamic community in this country. I would be offended if they didn't tell me. If I was a Muslim and didn't know that, if I was a Sunni Muslim and didn't know, I'd be offended. I'd want to know that. But somehow or another, we have this political correct regime from our administration. And so you're left in the dark. What about the Sunnis? Different kettle of fish. Unlike the Shia, who are, by the way, a very hierarchical institution, the religion, they have the Grand Ayatollah, sort of the leader. It's not, I mean, it's more, I hate to put it in these terms, in Christian terms, it's more like a the Sunni are more like non-denominational evangelical churches, and the Shia are more like Catholics. There's a line of authority, there's a priesthood, and when the Grand Ayatollah says, this is what you do, faithful Shia, not all Shia, because not all Shia are faithful, like all Catholics are faithful, not all everybody's faithful. In other words, following that. But the faithful ones will listen. And you only have to go to the Iran-Iraq War and figure that out. During the Iran-Iraq War, do you know what the Ayatollahs ordered children to do during the Iran-Iraq War? They were used as minesweepers, unarmed, walking through the lines to detonate mines between the Iraqi and Iranian lines. Oh, a few people lied. 30,000 children under the age of 16 died. They were ordered to go. They went. There's cemeteries, miles. They have holographs. You can see the faces of the children. They'll listen. One of the leaders in Iran announced that there are 52,000 martyrs waiting. Waiting. Do you know this? Why don't you know this? Because of political correctness, that's why you don't know it. And it's wrong. It's harmful. It's not anti-Islamic. It's just what you need to know about who we're facing. How about the Sunnis? Look, I mean, Osama bin Laden is very clear. I mean, he sees himself in the world of reestablishing the caliphate, reestablishing, the quest to expand Islam through violence. What he does and the tactics he uses, absolutely prohibited by the Quran, absolutely prohibited by the Muslim faith. Prohibited. Suicide bombing? No way. Cannot do it. Nothing in the Islamic faith says you can do suicide bombing. In fact, it's specifically condemned. Yet they do it. So that's why a lot of Muslims say, you know what, they're not us, because they're not. But they are attracting people to join them. And they're not attracting Christians. They're not attracting Jews. They're not attracting Buddhists. They're attracting other Muslims. And even before 9/11, radical Islam was on the rise in the Muslim world. It was largely ignored. It's been tried to be mollified, but it has never been confronted. And it must be in the Sunni world. Osama bin Laden said before 9/11, in this final phase of the ongoing struggle, the world of the infidels was divided into two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Now we have defeated and destroyed the more difficult and dangerous of the two. Yes, Osama bin Laden believes that they defeated the Soviet Union. They brought down the great superpower. And you know what? He has a pretty darn good argument. or what they did in Afghanistan, was the final nail in the coffin of the Soviet Union and caused the tumbling to occur. He goes on to say, dealing with the pampered and effeminate Americans will be easy. We are going to lose this war or not, I don't think we will. But if we do lose this war, it will not be in Iraq or Afghanistan or anywhere else outside of this country. It will be right here. Because we will say enough. We will say we just don't like it. We're not comfortable with it. So, what's the answer? The answer is, I'll discuss 4 things briefly. Number 1, as I mentioned repeatedly, we have to confront the element that is on the attack against us, that is on the offensive against us. We have to confront them. Number 2, we have to educate. We have to do this. I can't tell you the number of times I've had, not this long a conversation, because you don't get this long a conversation, with the President of the United States. And said, Mr. President, stop. Stop pussyfooting around. You gotta do this. And people like Karen Hughes and Condi Rice and Colin Powell and Richard Armitage say, oh no, you can't do this. Gosh, come on. You're gonna make our job really tough. Sometimes you gotta go through tough times to get to the times you need to get to win, and to bring people together. I would make the argument we're doing Islam no favor by sugarcoating this right now. It's hard. But sometimes you got to go through hard lessons. How many times do you figure that out in your life? You have to educate. I was in Massachusetts on Monday, and I got to thinking of the movie Glory. You ever saw the movie Glory? It's about the 54th Massachusetts Regiment during the Civil War. It's the first African-American regiment. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's awesome. Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Matthew Broderick, great stuff. Anyway, they're going through this drill, procedure, training them, educating them. And the black soldiers think, they've been there for a year. They don't think they're ever going to see action. They think this is just a publicity stunt. The white officers are just, going along with the drill. They're tired. This isn't happening. And so they're just going through the motions. They're not teaching them. They just think this isn't a real enemy. So if we don't have a real enemy, then we really don't have to do the tough work to find out how to defeat the enemy, how to know the enemy, and defeat the enemy. And Shaw sees this one officer not doing his job, and he runs over to him and gives him the end of the gun butt and says, "Teach them properly, Major. Teach them properly."